Good morning, everyone. This is Allison from Happily Homeless is Moonstruck, and I thought I'd just touch base with you on Father's Day. It's I don't know, what kind of a day is it? I know for many people who don't have their dads, it's a tough day. And I'm thinking of my friend Karen Jacobs and my friend Mark Enyart, whose dad just died not even a week ago, right? And I'm thinking of my kids, who have now been 4 years and 2 months without their dad. And I'm thinking of a young woman I met here at Opera in the Ozarks, whose dad died 3 years ago. And I'm thinking of all the dads who aren't present because they're serving with our armed forces one way or the other around the world, and so they're not home to be with their kids. So I thought I'd maybe talk a little bit about Chuck and what he was to our kids, and the impact that he left. And I had just gotten a text message from my daughter. A friend of hers who takes her yoga classes had texted her to say that the impact the yoga classes that he takes with her have had on him, and as an extension, the impact that his yoga practice has had on his relationship with his daughter. And I'm paraphrasing greatly, but he said words to the effect that, sometimes people, they just kind of do their thing and don't realize the impact they have, and they just kind of walk off into the sunset, not realizing the mark they've left behind. And he was saying that about our daughter Rachel Grace. And I think that's so true. A lot of people just leave marks on our souls, and it's so touching, though, because this friend of Rachel's went on to say that, the impact and the footprints that Chuck left behind him, that his energy is still moving through this world and on this earth, in spite of the fact that he's been gone for 4 years. And what that does to me, to my heart, for somebody who never even had the opportunity to know Chuck and the man that he was, but they're able to see the man that he was through his kids, and he lives on through them. And I was just having a talk last night, just kind of an idle conversation that went on for quite a while with someone here, a woman I know here at the Opera in the Ozarks. And I don't know, we ended up talking about Chuck, or about men, I guess, and it segued, of course, into Chuck for me. And she just said at one point, I'd talked about him just a little bit, and she knows my story, and she just said to me at one point, I wish that I'd known him. And those words, too, they mean so much for me to hear. And I know that Chuck has had an incredible impact on so many people through everybody that he knew. And I guess that's our saving grace, right? When we're grieving, is just knowing that the person we loved still matters somehow. And I know it's certainly my mission in life to ensure that by the time I die, everybody will have heard, everybody that I meet in my life will know the name of Chuck D. and a little bit about the man that he was. So yeah, here's the thing. Even at his memorial service that we had for him a few months after his death, most people didn't know that Alec, our oldest son Alec, and Rachel Grace, and our youngest son Nick were Chuck's stepkids. He never referred to them that way at all. He stepped in and became their dad emotionally, financially. He was there physically. He, in every way that a dad is a dad, that's exactly what he was. And our marriage began with 4 children between us. Chuck's daughter, Bronwyn, was one of the 4, and she lived primarily with her mother, but she would come on weekends, and we'd have her for a little bit longer every so often. So we had the 4 kids between us, and Chuck was just a very active and involved parent, in spite of the fact that he was also active duty at the time. And for a couple of years, he was, in addition to working full-time and long shifts, he was also going to school full-time. And he would go up for the first probably 3 or 4 years of our marriage, if not a little bit longer. He went up 3 times a week to, he would drive an hour after work to go and spend time with Bronwyn. And he wasn't just kind of like a vacation dad. I mean, he really did active parenting. And he did the same with our 3. My ex-husband chose to not be involved with our children after our divorce for many, many reasons, and none of them understandable, because they were his children. But he chose not to be involved with them, and so Chuck stepped in, and he never even mentioned about, well, they're not my kids, I'm not going to support them financially, because my ex was not paying child support, or he would pay it sporadically when I forced him to by going to court. But Chuck never made that an issue. Just when we got married, we had joint finances right away. It wasn't even a question, and he just paid for them the same way he paid for child support for his daughter, and whatever extras, and he was dad, right? So yeah, he just took them to heart. I remember our daughter Rachel Grace, when Chuck and I were going to get married, coming to me and saying, "Well, Mom, what should we call Chuck? Do we call him Dad? Do we call him Chuck? What do we call him?" And she was kind of representing for her brothers. They had that question. They were all young, 7 and under, I think it was. And so I said to her, "You know what, Rachel Grace, all that matters in this life is that you have as many people to love you as possible. Whatever label you give them doesn't matter. Aunt, uncle, mom, dad, grandpa, grandma, friends, mentors, it doesn't matter. What matters is the number of people who love you, and you want to have as many people in your life who do that as possible. So, it's your choice, you and your brothers. It's your choice as to whether you continue to call him Chuck, or whether you call him Dad or Daddy or anything else." And they made the decision on their own to call him Dad. And that evolved when they became teenagers into calling him Pop. And I think Chuck really liked that term. So he was the dad that they knew from a very young age. And they always, they would have sporadic contact with their birth dad. But it really was sporadic. And it was Chuck that they looked to for parenting. And I won't say that it was always easy, and our sons Alec and Nick will certainly testify to that in their teen years, especially like maybe 12 on up. It was tough for a while, and Chuck would get so frustrated sometimes, well, like every parent does, and wonder why he couldn't get through to them. But you know what? Ultimately, he did get through to them, as hopefully most parents do. And in their adult years, they certainly recognized, what Chuck brought to their lives. So how it worked out was that Chuck and I got married, and we came home from our wedding ceremony, and with our, the 4 kids who had all been in our wedding. It was a small wedding, but they all came home with us, and I just kind of pretty much put on an apron over my wedding dress and started cooking dinner. Okay, life gets right back to normal. So it wasn't until, when did Chuck and I think we had our honeymoon, we finally took a honeymoon in 2007, when we went to Hawaii, and we were married in 1990. So it took us a while to be able to have the time to go away to do something like that. But because, parenting. And Chuck was he was a good dad. He was pretty firm. His intent, because we didn't always agree, he and I, on parenting any more than anybody else does, whether it's a second family, a second marriage situation or not. The way he figured it is we have to teach these kids how to manage as if we weren't here, because who knows what might happen in life. And so we we taught them how to do laundry as soon as they were tall enough to reach the wash machines, and learning how to cook, all age appropriately. And just learning how to be responsible, and they had to go out and get jobs as soon as they were old enough. And Chuck helped our boys get jobs over at McGuire Air Force Base as summer hires. It's just all the usual parenting things. The thing is that being a step family oftentimes just brings that added, explosive possibilities to the whole thing, because you can always throw out the thing, well, you're not my dad. Well, you know what? When you get caught up in DNA, then that's exactly what happens. You get caught up in it. And DNA doesn't matter for shit. What matters is the love that happens. And there's a lot of love that happened. There's a lot of firmness that especially the boys didn't like, but hey, that's what kids do, right? That you have to give them a space to rebel against. And so they did their share of rebelling, but we all survived it, and that's the important part. Good morning, Laura and Paula. Hi, Mary. We did go away one weekend. I guess the kids were, how old was the youngest? Nick was maybe 13 or so. Looking back, I can't believe that we did this, but we left Rachel Grace in charge. Much to her dismay, probably. And I took Chuck away for a birthday weekend. We went up to the Poconos, to one of those hotels where they do they have the heart-shaped, what is it? Swimming? Well, it was, I guess it was kind of like a combination bathtub swimming pool, but because it was so large. But anyway, so we went away for the weekend, and I kind of did it with my heart in my mouth, but I'm trusting that everything would be okay, and it looked okay when we got home, at least. Who knows what happened during that time, but that was really the only time that we went away by ourselves, me and Chuck, while the kids were at home. So since we came home from our wedding day with all 4 kids, when the kids left home, I got to tell you, we did not suffer 1 minute of empty nest syndrome. I did not for a minute wish, I wish they were younger again so I could relive this and relive that. Nope. None of that. Chuck and I did happy dance once they all moved out, because, hey, that's what they're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to raise them and then push them out of the nest. And that's what we did. And immediately set about converting the house into our house. Now, I will say, one of the things that happened while we were raising our kids, because we started out with 4 of them right away. Good morning, Carol. And Monica, too. Because we started out with 4 kids, and we'd both come from marriages, previous marriages, and because we were so much in love, we really, really knew that we had to take care of our relationship, our marriage relationship. And because if Chuck and I weren't, if we didn't take care of our relationship to keep that marriage intact, then we'd end up with a broken family again, and we were determined that would never happen. One divorce, and that was it. I mean, you make a lot of mistakes when you marry young. We all know that. And oftentimes, the first marriage is kind of a practice marriage. It doesn't take away from, the love that you might have felt for that person or thought you felt at the time, or anything that happened during that marriage. But let's face it, when you marry young, you marry for not knowing a whole lot. That you, knowledge that you gain in maturity. So we knew to really value our marriage and our relationship. And so what we did, we had a kids-free zone, basically, and that was our bedroom. Our bedroom was our sanctuary. The rest of the house, the kids had full run of it. And that's where Chuck and I, we were mom and dad out there. That all stopped at the door to our bedroom, which was our sanctuary. And in our bedroom, we were Chuck and Allison, and we were man and woman, husband and wife, having nothing to do with the kids. And our bedroom was off limits to our children. And I told them so. Even if our bedroom door was open, they had to knock to ask if they could come in. We were very protective of our relationship, because you can't be mom and dad all the time. You have to keep your relationship as man and woman alive and vibrant, so that you can continue to be that mom and dad to the kids. That was our theory, and I know it's not everybody's, but that was ours. And I remember one time I tried to I wanted to decorate our bedroom. I was always doing things over and painting it all over again, and stuff like that. And so one time I wanted to kind of have the effect of living in a tent. I don't know why. Now, this is not a camping tent that I'm talking about. I'm talking about an elaborate, Arabian tent. And so I got blue, kind of shimmery material. It didn't work, I gotta tell you. But anyways, I got blue shimmery material, and I hung it I tacked it to the ceiling, which was hard because there was also a fan in the middle, which screwed everything up, to make it look like clouds or something. I don't even know what I was thinking. And then I hung material from the walls too, to cover all the walls. And we lived like that for a little while. That was a Pinterest fail. The cloud effect on the ceiling just was not working. So, and then I did shabby chic for quite a while. And I kind of like that because it gives that romantic feel to it. And I did do a lot of pink in our bedroom, and not a lot of colors that Chuck would have described him more. He was more of a muted, darks and browns and maybe some navy blues and some greens and stuff. Those are so not my colors. And so what I told him early on was that, but by standing, when he mentioned something about, there's all this pink, and I told him, but you being in this bedroom, with all this pink around you, it just heightens your masculinity. You look even more like a man, you just really stand out as a man. And he I don't know that he necessarily agreed with me, but he didn't say anything in response, and I never did change the colors. So yeah, our bedroom had a lot of pink and soft, and it was a sanctuary. And I remember my mom, and this is odd, my mom told me real early on, and this is odd just because, she never struck me as a romantic in any way, or I don't know where this came from in her, but she told me early on that when I had called her in my first marriage to talk to her actually about painting our bedroom and stuff, and she said, look, a bedroom is a woman's sanctuary, and her husband or whatever man comes into that room is her guest, and so the room itself reflects the woman's inner beauty. And so she a woman just uses a bedroom to express that inner beauty. And I also remember saying that to Chuck one time, and I guess there was really no safe argument when I told him, I'm expressing my inner beauty. And how can a man respond safely to that, disagreeing? So yeah, our bedroom was always a place of romance. We had pictures of Chuck and I through the years. Any pictures that we had in there were pictures of me and Chuck through the years. There's no pictures of me with our kids, Chuck with our kids, nothing. Those were reserved for the rest of the house. In our bedroom, it was pictures of me and Chuck. And, about our love story. So, Laura says, too funny. I pinked up our life as well. Charlie wore pink well. You know what the interesting thing is about the color pink? In the 1800s, it was just a reverse of what it has been for many years in our culture. Men are the ones who wore pink, and women more often wore the blue. So, to the degree that colors were identified with a gender, men were more identified with pink in the 1800s. So, I don't know, you could throw that into the argument as well if you're trying to do things all pink. But one of the things that I did admire about Chuck too was that he was, you know, the two of us were a unit. We thought the same way insofar as our relationship was concerned. But he was also very sure about letting the kids know that this is what a healthy relationship looked like, a healthy marriage relationship. And so he and I, you know, and our kids remember this, and I love that our kids remember it so strongly about us, that they remember us dancing in the living room and in the kitchen and wherever we might be, whatever music was playing. You know, if we heard something, then, you know, I could be finishing up cleaning the kitchen or something like that, or I could be in the middle of cooking, whatever it might be, and a particular tune would come on, and Chuck would just come and take me into his arms, and we would just dance around the kitchen, and we would kiss each other in front of the kids, and, you know, make them groan and roll their eyes and say, "Oh, get a room." But those are the memories that our kids, and that's so valuable for me, that they do have that. That they have those memories. So that's my daughter trying to call me. Rachel, come on to my Facebook page so you can see that I'm talking. But those are the memories our kids have of Chuck and I dancing. And so it's about him being a husband to me as much as him being a dad to them. And that's good stuff for kids to have. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to cut this one a little bit short because I want to catch up with my daughter and see what she has to say. But I'm going to check in again with you later on. And it's raining, pouring rain here, and dark and dreary, and I'm taking the day off. So I'll be checking back in with you later on. And I just wanted to remember my husband today on Father's Day, and remember our kids who are missing their dad today, and remember my dad who died last year, and just all the dads, because dads are important. And I think our culture has made them less important in the past few decades, and it's not true. Dads are vitally important to children, to raising them, to raise their sons to be good men, and to raise their daughters to be strong women, and then so that they could find good men to be in their lives. So Paige, good morning, Paige. She says, this isn't quoted word for word, but the best thing a man can do for his children is to love their mother. Yes, absolutely. And Chuck showed that to our kids in every way. Laura, thanks for that. Lots of love to you too. Lots of love to all of you. And I will check in with you in a little while. I have to do some laundry today, and catch up on all the stuff to catch up on because it's raining. But I wish you all love today, and have whatever day you're going to have. And check in with me here. I'd love to hear from you. For now, ti amo.